Hello there, welcome again to one of my videos. Hi to everyone that's just joining. So as usual, I'll waffle on until someone tells me or asks me another question. So hi Amanda, hi to everyone that's just joining. So yes, I'll waffle on, and if you want to ask the question, I'll change what I'm talking about. So hi there, IGNO something guide. Sorry, I'm terrible at reading out these username type things. So I was just going to waffle on about the Anunnaki, only because I've been doing more videos about them. So obviously you can ask me any questions you want. The picture that's in the background is really crap. I didn't realise how bad it would come out. I was just trying something new 5 minutes before I came on, so forgive the picture. So the Anunnaki is causing some debates on the videos about the the stasis body, that's supposedly an Anunnaki of some sort, or Gilgamesh. Now, I don't know if people know the story of Gilgamesh. I think it was 6 poems that were written that was found in different places. So it could be Gilgamesh, but the way that the person's sort of in the stasis with the amulet and the breastplate, etc. And speaking of that character, there was a sword in there with him. So I mentioned on the last live chat that I think the Anunnaki are about 150 years ahead of us, and I think they're 150. Well, when they was here, I think there was 150 years ahead of us. However, in some respects, they were behind us, and I'd always thought that for a long while, because they didn't have the sort of things that we have here now. I know obviously over time things get eroded and stuff like that, but if you look at any of the temples and things like that, there was no sort of light switches, there was no electrical appliances that we would recognize. So whatever they did it. So in other words, it's like steampunk, or if you go back 150 years, everything was steam. But they still managed to do a lot of the same sort of things that we're doing now, but they used steam. So this is what I'm saying about the Anunnaki. I think they had different disciplines in metals and things like that allowed them to do different things to what we do, but in a different way. And obviously we do a lot of things just to sell. So we package things, whereas they weren't interested in packaging things to sell and reuse. They did everything they could. But going back to the sword, interesting, because obviously they didn't use the sort of weapons that we would use, such as guns. You'd think, an advanced alien race would have space weapons of some description, or at least a weapon that's not a sword. And if we go along the lines that they did use the nuclear weapon at some point, which is, I've done some videos on that, which there's kind of proof, it comes across as proof that they did, and it's even in the Bible about the bitterness of the taste and people losing their flesh and all that kind of thing. So if they've got a nuke weapon, why were they using swords? So I think they were behind in some respects, but ahead of us in others. That's why I say I don't think they're that far off of us. They're not millions of years, or they weren't millions of years ahead of us. And the reason why I say about 150 years is because we're now tinkering with DNA, and obviously they were smart enough. But it did take them probably about 150,000 years before they got to the point of the first Homo sapiens sapiens. So they arrived 450,000 years ago, and it was about 300,000 years ago that the first Homo sapiens sapiens arrived. So so that's that. I'm just going to see if there was any questions. I don't think there is, so I will waffle on. As I say, if you want to ask the question, feel free. Otherwise, I will just waffle on. Now, the Anunnaki. So the hi to everyone that's saying hi. Now, they talk a lot about spirits and the spirit lord. So to them, there is a spirit lord. Now, what that is, I can only assume is an eternal being that they see as a god. Because they talk about that. They also talk about spirits a lot. And they talk about angels. Now, so if you go back and read the book of Enoch, every time they talk about an angel or an archangel or a holy angel, they're physical beings. They're like, oh, he was standing next to me, or he started chatting to me, or he showed me this and he showed me that. So, the more I think about it, the more I think they were more likely to be angels. Although we've translated it and it comes across as messenger, I think they were probably more like the police or the army or security guards, because it's only the higher up ones that got to show Enoch the mysterious wonders of Earth and explained a lot to him. So, and he wrote about that, the fact that he was shown, and various different angels were with him. But if you forget the word angels, then you could say military or army, and that makes a lot more sense. That the angels were not angels that we perceive as angels. They were just, the army there, or guards or whatever for the Anunnaki. So they were still Anunnaki, but they're just a different name for them. So I'm sorry, someone's just wrote a question. Do you believe we are aliens? So because of the chromosomes, we have 26. I might be getting this wrong top of my head. I think we've got 26 and we should have 28. Two of our chromosomes have been fused, which apparently can only be done in a laboratory type environment. So straight away there's a discrepancy there. And that would make sense if we was genetically modified by a smarter race at the time. So yes, I think we were genetically modified by the Anunnaki, and I think the Anunnaki were definitely here, which were an alien race, because there's just, the statues and the text and the Sumerian cuneiforms and the cylinder seals and all these things just literally say it. So, even, you could argue the Bible, blah, 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 but we know the Book of Enoch predates the Bible. And, there's so many things in the Book of Enoch. Like, for example, and I've done a video which I haven't released yet, it literally spells out how they worked out the months of the year and everything else using what I believe Stonehenge. Now, bear in mind, there's lots of Stonehenges, not just the one in the UK. So the evidence shows that someone was smarter here. The missing link also shows, from creationism to evolution, there is a missing link, and the missing link is obviously someone creating us. So yes, totally believe we are hybrids, not 100% aliens. We're hybrids from the indigenous species that were here at the time. Hopefully that answers your question, Jake. Hello to the people that saying hello. Did he touch on the subject of aliens and primates splicing to create humans? Sorry, I've kind of just touched on it there. Yeah. So going back to the chromosome. So if that's a fact. There's no denying that we have different chromosomes than what we should have. So we know something happened to us in the past. So then it goes back to, well, if they were experimenting and trying to create us, then logic would say they probably also tried to make other things, such as the centaur and minotaur and things like that. So I mean, we would probably be doing it now. We're not probably, military has probably been doing it. I know I've heard that they've been trying to find Nephilims, skeletons of Nephilims is basically the giants, and trying to create a super soldier. So if they're doing that, our military, they've probably done a lot of other experiments, and going right back. I know, or I've heard that Germans used to do it back in the war, trying to manipulate to try and get a super soldier as well. So splicing of DNA. I mean, we do it now. There's a thing called I haven't thought of this now for a while, a couple of years now. I can't remember the name of it, but I can't remember the name of it. But it's something you can actually do at home with your own DNA. If someone can remember what it's called, I don't think it was splicing. I think it was something similar to that. But yeah, you can actually order a kit. And God, I wish I could remember the name of it. Sorry, guys. Yeah, you can order a kit and actually mess around with your DNA. It's quite scary. So if we can do that now, give us another 150 years. People, if you can have a kit, you'll be getting your cat, your dog, and you'll be creating all sorts of weird monstrosities. People will, they just will. So if we did that, or the Anunnaki did that, then that would make sense why there's all these statues that, let's be honest, are really hard to carve. These Pegasuses and all sorts of mythological creatures. There's a lot of effort to go through to carve them, and they're in different locations. So two people would have had to have seen the same creature or come up with the same idea just to make this creature out of their own mind, unless it was one person that was travelling around knocking up these statues. So yeah, definitely think there was some splicing going on. Jake wrote, few of my colleagues believe we're clones. Also, some believe we're no longer humans as once were. So, from the evidence of our own researchers, the archaeologists, as I keep showing on these videos, they keep finding new species of hominid that sort of come and go. And many of the archaeologists believe that the indigenous species that was here, the four at the time that the Anunnaki arrived, there's others prior to that, and there's been others since, but they believe that us humans mated with those four, even though we are part of the four because of whatever one they used or however many they used to create Homo sapiens sapiens. We ended up mating with those four, and those four mated with each other, and some of them died out, and obviously you had the Anunnaki that had been trying prior to that, before they got the successful Adam and Eve, or Homo sapiens sapien. So there's a whole archaeological finds out there that you can see races suddenly appear and suddenly dying. That could simply be a matter of two of the species on the planet at the time, such as us and Homo florensis, for example, we may have mated them and gave birth. That society there, that new society, new hybrid, whatever you want to call it, lived for a certain period and then died off, and that's where our archaeologists now are coming across these creatures, these humanoids, but can't work out why they suddenly arrived here and suddenly disappeared, but that would make sense. Okay, I'll shut up now. Do I watch Ancient Aliens? Yes. Haven't watched them for a while now, but I did when they, I think I probably was fairly watching them for the first 7 seasons, but I think they're up to something, Christ knows how many now, 13 or something. I think they started grabbing at straws on some of the later episodes. I've seen bits of the later ones, but some of the earlier ones are really good, because there was steeped in fact, and they wasn't, they had the information out there, whereas the later ones are sort of conjecture, and they're just throwing out ideas now. But some of them stick, some of those ideas ain't bad, but I just don't think they have enough material now, because obviously they've covered a lot of it already. Hi Chewback, that says afternoon. Is it true there's a pyramid in Antarctica? Well, supposedly yes. There's some researchers that have gone through Google Images from their the satellites up in space, or up in the firmament, or whatever you want to call it, and they've worked out that they can see a square base that's where the ice had melted. You wouldn't be able to see it, 10 years ago, but now you can. And they've gone there, and they totally believe there's pyramids under the ice. Now they haven't dug underneath the ice because it's still quite deep. But that's something they're trying to do an expedition to do. So you need a lot of machinery and stuff. You can't just go there with a shovel and spade as much as they want to. They couldn't do that. I think probably because people will probably be watching them, so they need to do it properly, but I don't think they're going to get very far. But yeah, I think there's pyramids. I mean, technically there's pyramids all over the world. Even one, as I mentioned before, possibly in Wales that was found. Whether or not it's true, but it was a very interesting story about the builders finding the capstone of one when they were trying to build a road, and then started digging down. Realised it's a pyramid, told their bosses, and their bosses told their bosses, and in the end they said build the road around it and put a roundabout on the top of it, so no one knows. So if there's pyramids, and supposedly there's a pyramid at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle, then having one in Antarctica. Now, if you go back to the Book of Enoch, there's a point when they're talking about just before the flood. Enoch says that he noticed the world tilt. Now, you may have all heard the story that the planet rotates on its axis every X amount of thousands and thousands of years. Now, that then brings into the fact that so the Sahara Desert was actually the bottom of an ocean at one point, so where the world flips. And Antarctica would have been green, lush grass there. So if there was green lush grass there prior to the world flipping, then yes, there could have been a pyramid there, and then got covered over by ice when the world flipped. So yeah, I would say there's a pyramid there. It's not the pyramid that I think there's a spaceship of some description, massive, huge thing, that the army are looking into. I don't think there's a pyramid under the ice that the army that are there are looking into. I might be wrong, but that's the vibe I got from listening to enough people that the whistleblowers that are there. Jurgens wrote, there are pyramids all over the solar system. Yeah, I mean, if you go along the lines of Sardinia, on Mars, then there's pyramids there as well. Remote viewers of, in fact, Secure Team 10 done a video actually recently saying that there's some documents that, out of millions of documents the government's released, they let one slip. Probably didn't realise what was in it, but it was about a remote viewer that was asked to remote view Mars. They didn't know what it was at the time, because the remote viewers are not given the information. But so they were told a location, but they don't know where it was. But anyway, they were told to remote view it 3 million years ago, or something like that. I've forgotten the exact amount, but millions of years ago. And basically, they said there was pyramids there. So Secure Team 10 done a Google search on those coordinates. Turns out, there was a pyramid, and you can still see the remnants of a pyramid on Mars. So going back to what Jürgen said, yeah, pyramids, if that's correct, then yeah, they're all over. And if they are or some of them are a power source, then that's a logical thing to have on each planet, because obviously you would want some sort of power source. So pyramids are probably everywhere, because it seems to be a very good way of getting a lot of energy without putting, making a huge carbon footprint, really. Morning to Billy. How accurate do you think the film Prometheus was? It's really interesting when I was watching it, and these giants came out. I was like, yes, finally, someone's actually really trying to get the information out there. Then it sort of started going off onto the obviously aliens scenario, but the So the beginning part I thought was really interesting. Obviously, films always take a little bit of liberties, but I think the idea was there, and I think they was trying to get it out. So yeah, I'd like to really watch the beginning part. To be honest, I thought it was quite good. It's good to see that. Jake's wrote, think it was gene editing Chris's kits that you can play around with your deer at home. Yeah, it was gene editing. Yeah, Chris's. I don't know if that was the name of it, but yeah, something similar to that. If it's not that, yeah. Thank you for answering that. Wote has wrote Annunaki. I probably pronounce things wrong, and I get told off a lot for pronouncing things wrong. So, have you seen Stargate? Someone's asked. Yes, and the show, and yeah, I'm not going to go into how much I know about Stargate. In a previous life, I dealt with films and TV shows and various things. So a few years back, so I know Stargate very well, very very well. And I know MGM very well. Pinewood Studios and all that kind of stuff. So in the previous life, yeah. So Stargate, yeah, very very interesting. At the time, I hadn't heard of pyramid-shaped UFOs. People have now saying that there are pyramid-shaped UFOs. And someone said in one of my last live chats that to look up something because it describes it as a pyramid shape. So Stargates. I think Roland Emmerich was trying to get stuff out there, especially as he also did Independence Day. He's very very clued up, I think, the director, on what's going on. And if you also remember, he did The Day After Tomorrow, where we had that snow, the ice and everything else in that film. So he's tried to show us some ideas of what's out there, and he's used some of those. And he quite interesting. And he also did. I can't remember the name of it now. So I'm scrolling on here. Jake's wrote, Stargate has some good key points in it, but like it all shows, it had to embellish to keep the viewers. Yes, yeah, they couldn't obviously. I mean, I go on about the last season of X-Files. I mean, that literally, if no one's seen it, that literally. I mean, it even had a TR3B in it. Fascinating how they was really trying to get us out there, and even to the point of which now makes even more sense. I suddenly remember the one where Mulder was locked in, or Scully was locked in their own house because everything was computerized. If you guys remember that, my God, that's thinking about that now, with what's going on in the world and everything else. Quite fascinating, yeah. So, X-Files were epic back in the day. Mulder locked in episode. Yes, so yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, bloody yeah. I mean, that's pretty scary because I go back to the people that I'd listened to yonks ago, where they were talking about what's going to happen in the future, and they were talking about concentration camps, and then they said, after that, I mean, I'm going back 20 years, they said after we've been in concentration camps, the world will obviously be different, and it will be a world of AI. Now, 20 years ago, AI was, we're talking PlayStation 1, there was no AI. But knowing what we now know, if you haven't seen it, look for 2-minute papers on, that's the closest us novices will get, 2-minute papers on YouTube. He talks about AI, but obviously Elon Musk talks about AI, saying how even more advanced than what we are aware of. So if the episode of X-Files was sort of showing us what's to come, and that's what I kind of heard 20 years ago, where they were saying that AI won't let you in rooms, won't let you do anything unless you are and it's a computer that will tell you. It's not someone sitting there. It will say you're not allowed in. Which leads me on to my next thing. If someone says to you, the government or anyone says, come, we will look after you because of either radiation, UFOs, alien invasions, any reason whatsoever, whoever's listening to this, just remember, do not go with them. And that goes for the army people. If anyone listens to this, say no, don't allow that to happen, because if that happens, then you probably ain't coming out of these camps. And if you remember, or if you've heard of SOM 101, which was the Special Operations Manual for how to handle UFOs back in the 40s, so when you had a crashed UFO, the army would say, right, you all stand in your house, or they evacuate the people around, and they say it was a radiation leak from a whatever missile, whatever. They don't obviously say it's a UFO, and that's in SOM 101. So they're going to play out that same thing in the future. I believe they're going to turn around, whether or not they're going to use the Taliban with the weapons that they've given to them deliberately, whatever. Eventually it's going to get to a point where they're going to say, hey, and they've actually, in the UK, they've actually passed a law that will allow the government to take you and separate you from your kids and your family and take you somewhere safe. There's a law already passed a few months back. So if that happens, I have to strongly say, hell no, don't go with them, because it's not for your benefit, trust me. So that's enough of me talking about what's going to happen in the future. Jake has wrote, I'd love to go for a drink with you. Genuinely, you seem really informed on what's going on. I try to be. I mean, I've probably missed the mark a few times, and some people, shoot me down for various reasons, but that's fine, I guess. Where are you in the UK? I'm in the UK, and I haven't been vaxxed, so I'm not allowed probably out of the UK. But it'd be nice to know where you're from. So if you've got any other questions, it doesn't have to be to do with aliens. It can be spirits. It can be... you're in Derby, Midlands. Okay, well, if you're ever coming towards London, let me know, and we'll try and meet up. I'm just going to have a quick drink, so talk amongst yourselves. That's the benefit of having an extra person here, chatting away. Jake's wrote, I think a lot of world leaders have been cloned. Yeah, someone asked that, they mentioned that the other day on another live chat. Has anyone seen the video of the Pope where he pulls his sort of skin? It looks like it's too tight on him. I'm out on that one. I know CGI and I know stuff like that, but that is quite compelling. Actually, it's just what he does with his hands and everything. So I don't think it. I also know actors, long story, won't bore you. So I know what would have, if I was directing that, I would have known what I would have done to the guy to direct him to make it look like he's pulling. So, but it's possible that someone's grabbed that footage after and then manipulated it. But if they did, it's very well done. But yeah, I think, and Jake's just wrote, I think the Pope is a clone defo or a man in a mask, also Joe Biden. Yeah, I mean, there's a few people out there that supposedly are clones. I mean, we had Stephen Hawking. Some people have said it was a clone. I know. I mean, I'm 100% sure that cloning exists. I've heard enough about it, and the fact that we was doing it with sheep, 15, 20 years ago, whatever it was, Dolly the sheep. And that's just what we've been told. So you've got to remember we're probably 50 years behind what we've been told just by our normal people, but the secret military that's had the funding, they've been doing it. And one of the lower levels, I think, of Area 51 does the cloning. So probably a lot of people cloned. It's quite sad and scary. Jakes wrote, when they cloned Joe Biden, I think they messed up the speech. They messed up his speech parameters. Yeah, I mean, I've been watching a lot of Joe Biden. I mean, because obviously I'm in the UK, but I've been watching some of his older videos of him. I wouldn't have voted for him if when he was younger, because he was also I think he was one of the youngest senators or something like that at the time. And I wouldn't have voted for him. He came across as not very nice person to me. I might be wrong, but that's just the way it came across. Just reading the messages. There's a couple of people chatting between themselves. So Jake wrote, there's a video where the Pope turns around and he disappears before he's out of camera shot. I've not seen that one. I'd be interested to see that one. That would be good to see. So yeah, okay. So I think I've caught up on the questions there. So any other questions? Otherwise, I will now just pick a random subject and waffle on again. Probably to do with Annunaki, to be honest, because a lot of people had asked me to go back round and do the Anunnaki, so my mind is now set on all of that kind of stuff. So the upcoming videos, you'll be pleased to know, will be hopefully centered on the Anunnaki's planet itself, and who they are and what they did there, and who Anu was, and the fact that someone tried to fight him for the kingship of their planet. It's quite interesting. So I'll be doing all of that. Jake wrote, I love to carry on. When are you next live? Because I need to go out shopping now. So this will be on YouTube for anyone, and also all the other ones are on YouTube, and they're on Spotify as well, believe it or not, so you can listen to them as a podcast if you really want to. I don't know when I'll be on next live. Sometimes I just pick it as random, but it'll probably be maybe Wednesday or Thursday. But definitely Mondays, always on Mondays. So thank you, Jake, for all your excellent questions, and hope your shopping goes well. So back to the Anunnaki, unless someone asks another question. Jake's wrote, perfect, speak to you soon. Keep up what you're doing. Thank you. Brilliant. That's great. Videos coming about the Anunnaki, and I'll be doing more on the Book of Enoch and who Enoch was, the lineage of them, because people wonder how we've got the family trees of we can say, oh well, Enoch was this, and then Adam and Eve was that, and Cain and Abel was this, and blah blah blah, and that's because the Book of Enoch actually literally names out the people. Names out the angels as well. So literally it tells us everything we need to know, which is quite fascinating, because we take it from the Bible and say it's the Bible, but obviously once you realise that the Book of Enoch was first, then everything in the Bible, you just might as well just read the Book of Enoch, to be honest with you, except up to 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, because I think what's happened is Enoch stopped writing the Book of Enoch, which is, when I say Book of Enoch, it's made up of various texts, and then I think people started to write themselves. Humans, Homo sapiens sapiens, started to write themselves about stuff, so that got mixed in and added to the Book of Enoch, and then as time went on, the Book of Enoch got removed. Enoch's words that he talks about everything got removed by the people in power, because clearly it shows that there was aliens here and blah blah blah, and that's what's basically happened. So Zechariah Sitchin says that. I know people say he gives out misinformation, but as I say before, there's 200 people that can read Sumerian and Aramaic and all this kind of stuff. So if there's 200 people, then they would have poo-pooed him a long time ago, and he wouldn't have done all the books that he's done. So clearly he was saying stuff that was true. Um, so, sorry, some of those questions I better answer them. I'm trying to be good now and keep up with the questions instead of waffling on and then running out of time at the end. Amanda, never heard of her. Who is that hides the evidence of our history? Smithsonian's. Yeah, so Smithsonian is an institute that has a museum in the States. Now, back when it was first created, it got some funding from various high sources, and it's probably, I don't know that all of them for sure, but I would have said it's probably the elites back then, such as General Motors or General Electric, sorry, which was done by the name's gone, Edison. Edison and Westinghouse and Rockefellers and so those sort of people allowed the Smithsonian to do what it needed to do by helping the funding. And way back then, as a museum, they started to collect artifacts. But as soon as they got the artifacts that didn't match the narrative that the elites wanted, yeah, they destroyed them. Or some cases, supposedly they're in vaults. They've got massive vaults, not necessarily at the museum, although they've got probably vaults in the museum, but the hidden stuff is in, according to whistleblowers, is in hidden places that's very, very deep in these vaults. So they keep hold of giants and things like that there, giant skeletons. That's probably after the early 1900s, where they supposedly had a court case and was told, asked why they keep destroying evidence such as giants, and apparently they used to pay sailors to take these bones of these giants and tip them overboard in the ocean just to get rid of them. So, if that's the sort of mentality we've got for our history, then it's really sad. And I keep going back to that one that 2016. I read a newspaper article. I know I keep going on about it, but it just breaks my heart. A rancher found a giant skeleton. Called obviously the local newspaper. They came, took a picture of it, wrote about it, and at the end of the article, the guy says, "I'm going to donate this to the Smithsonian," and it just breaks my heart because I can guarantee you that even though the newspaper was there, took a picture of it, it was a genuine skeleton, I can guarantee you go to Smithsonian and ask for a giant, they'll say we haven't got any. So yeah, that frustrates me, it really does. Hi to Calidora. I haven't finished all your series yet, but I did have a question about the Anunnaki. Where are they now? Good question. So, really good question. So some apparently stayed here. Some of the, some of the not necessarily fallen angels. So an angel, okay, so I don't know how far you've been following, but an angel isn't really an angel. It's not an angelic being. It's from what I can understand, it's just an Anunnaki that has a job. So it's possibly like military. And they're higher up ones. You've got Archangel and Holy Angels. They're just, like Sergeant Major and, Corporal type of thing. So some of the Anunnakis were abandoned, and I can say that now because I've been rereading the Book of Enoch recently to refresh my memory on things. And according to the Book of Enoch and Sitchin, some of them were abandoned here, and that as a punishment. However, they had secret knowledge. Now they weren't supposed to have secret knowledge of everything because they were teaching. This is the reason why they were left here. So these are not necessarily fallen angels, the ones that fallen Anunnaki or Elohim, if you actually want to be correct. That's their race name. So these Anunnaki that stayed here were teaching humans things that shouldn't have been taught. So this is where you probably got the Illuminati come from, to be honest. And they were being taught things. Now they said, trying to remember the name of it. not curses, not spells, but another word for that type of thing, which I find fascinating, because do they actually really mean sort of magic, or is it just another word that we've got mixed up? But they were teaching them all these things, and they shouldn't have been teaching the humans this, and this is why the Anunnaki were left here. Those Anunnaki, some people say, are not in control of the whole planet per se, because there's talk that there's reptilians as well helping the elites to rule the planet. So it could be both lots. And some people say that the reptilians certainly knew the Anunnaki, because there's so much talk of the serpents and things like that in the Book of Enoch. So some of them stayed, unfortunately, and they probably weren't the nicer ones, and the others left, because although they survived here for hundreds of thousands of years, it wasn't their planet. They didn't really want to stay here. They didn't make it at home. It was too hot for them, and so on, because obviously our sun's too close compared to their planet and stuff. So so some are here, probably pulling some strings behind closed doors, and the others left. So I hope that kind of answers your question. So as you carry on watching the videos, you'll see that when I talk about angels now, it makes much more sense than thinking that they're sort of little flying around things. Amanda's wrote, that made me laugh. I don't know her either. Sorry, not sure. So Amanda's wrote, Smithsonian is owned by the elites. Well, if you look on their website, it says they get majority of their funding from, such as Rockefellers. So I wouldn't say they're owned per se by them, but they're all in on it. So it goes back to the other institutes. Like if you was trying to get DNA from Bigfoot, for example, you'll find that a lot of the institutes that you need to go to get that sort of mitochondrial DNA, you'll find that they're run by, wait for it, or funded by the Rockefellers. So if the Rockefellers turn around and say, no, we don't want you to, and in fact recently Bill Gates and Rockefellers are joining up, I don't know if you saw this on the news, are joining up to help create the passport, yes, the COVID type passport, with microchips and everything else. So put all of that together, the Gates, the Rockefellers, how they're doing something like that, because that's not a good thing to have, that passport, regardless of whether you've got the jab or not. It's not a good thing to have. So the Rockefellers ain't doing things in our interest. Amanda's wrote, saw that the people who run it aren't educated as historians or anything associated. I haven't looked that deep into it, but that's really good. Good point, I guess. I've not looked into them to find out the people that work there's credentials, but they're definitely up to something. It's a shame, because they did that night at the museum. The third one was at the Smithsonian, and I was like, I wonder if they're going to fly down, or go down to the bottom of the basement and find some stuff they shouldn't have, but they didn't. Mr. Smith wrote, mate, I believe in ancient aliens too, but at the end of the day, who knows about the beginning? Well, I mean, there's enough text out there to sort of give us the information that the Anunnaki came here, or the Elohim, or whatever you want to call them. I still say Anunnaki because everyone knows it. But if I started saying Elohim, people will probably tear me apart and say, no, Elohim's God. But that's the name of the race. But but prior to that, who knows? As I mentioned at the top of the hour, as they say on radio shows, the Anunnaki are totally aware of spirits and another creator, of whatever that creator is. So who knows what happened at the beginning? I don't know if we'll ever know. Amanda's wrote back to that chap, Mr. Smith. No one. We can only try to piece together the information we have. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Mr. Smith, I believe that God made everything in the infinite universe. We may be alone, who knows? Well, I certainly don't think we're alone. Just the law of the amount of planets and stars and everything else that's out there. I mean, even the hardened astronomers and that are slightly erring on the side. Well, maybe there is some sort of life, but they always come back with the but it would take them too long in rocket ships to get here, and that's their argument, which really winds me up, because obviously, 150 years ago there was no such thing as rocket ships. 150 years from now it would be anti-gravity, so they can't say just because of the time period they're in now that that's what other aliens would use. But and as for the God that made everything, something created something for us, for the universe to be here, whether that was an intelligence or not. As I mentioned many times before, the little greys have said that there's a source or creation. That's what they call it. So something was there, but I wouldn't say it's a God. The God that's in the Bible, certainly not that, because the Book of Enoch literally explains who the gods are. But the one almighty being that created everything, I don't know. I wouldn't know what that was that created anything. Mr. Smith, God is a message, not an entity. Yes, I mean, I don't know what the creational source is, but it's certainly not the white man in the white, in the robe and sitting up on a cloud. That's just literally taken from the Book of Enoch. So if you look at the Sumerian statues and everything, that is a description of God. Zeus, Poseidon, all of them are the same. Right, how do I find the Book of Enoch? So you can, technically it's out of print, because obviously it was never in print. It was cylinder seals, it was Dead Sea Scrolls and everything else. So people have transcribed it into books. Is a very heavy read. They talk things like this. They'll say, and in those days the earth was this, and the spirits did this, and it's not like we talk now. It's sort of very broken English. So I would suggest listening to it. There's on YouTube. Just type in the Book of Enoch. There's one that's about 3 hours long. Very well spoken. Whoever read it out done a fantastic job, because some of those names in the book that they talk and things, whoever did that needs a medal, trying to pronounce some of these names. But yeah, so the book, I would try and listen to it on the audio on the YouTube, just because it's a really heavy read, and try to memorize some of the names that you probably can't even pronounce in your own head. This guy, whoever read it out, nails it perfectly, so it's easier to. So that's what I would probably suggest doing. As I say, it's about 3 hours long, so. And Amanda's just said exactly the same thing. They think there's someone on YouTube that reads the whole thing. Yeah. Sorry, if I read that, I would have not needed to waffle on there. Where is the best copy of the video book of Enoch? Same thing to that person, Anthony. But don't forget, you've also got to look up. So it's not just the Book of Enoch; it's the 12th planet as well. So where there's the tablets and everything was created into what they call the Book of Enoch, there was other tablets and writings that form. Not necessarily the book of the 12th planet, but form the information that went into the book, such as the 12th planet. And that was written by Zecharia Sitchin. So there's a whole thing out there. You've got to kind of read a lot to make sense of everything. So if you just listen to one, like the Book of Enoch, that's all fine. But if you listen to or read all the other books, then it all starts making a lot more sense. Mr. Smith wrote, "My dogs are my angels, really, it's what I think." Well, like I say, the Book of Enoch talks about spirits, and they talk about dead people and the spirits of dead people. So spirits are a real thing. So if you think your dogs are angels, I wouldn't say they're angels in the word that we think that they are. I would just say that your dogs probably have spirits in them, which are basically another entity. And they could be reincarnated, put inside your dogs, which happens. Okay, Calidora, understood, thank you. If I wanted to read the Book of Enoch, is there a certain version to look for? As I mentioned, there's a 3-hour version on YouTube. Just listen to that. The guy does a fantastic job. Like there's words in there like cherubim, and I wouldn't even know how to pronounce that. There's loads of other really complicated words, and this guy does a fantastic job. So it helps you to retain the word, the names that you've just heard. Whereas if you try and read them, it's really difficult. Well, for me anyway. So have a bath and stick it on for half hour or whatever, and see how you get on with it. Rothschilds are also part of the elite. Also, yes, I was trying. Well, thank you, Anthony. I was trying to think of the name of the other ones while I was mentioning out some of the elites. I couldn't remember the Rothschilds, so thank you for helping me remember that. Just whizzing down. Christians around me deny the Book of Enoch exists, as well as the Dead Sea Scrolls against religion. That's the problem, isn't it, Anthony? That is where we come up against the people that are steadfast in their beliefs. The sad fact is these, cylinder seals and the Dead Sea Scrolls and the papyrus and all the text that's been written are genuine. These are not faked. So once they can get their head around that these were not faked, these are genuine writings. If they could just listen or read the writings themselves instead of just being told by some priest, what's in it, or reading a Bible that's been rewritten 1,000, Christ knows how many times by people in power. If they went to the original source, they'd be like, "Oh my God, that's what it says in the Bible, but it's slightly different." Yeah, it's slightly different because it's the real version. So and it's not just Christians. I've got Muslims saying, although they agree with me on some things, they say no, it's not what it says in the Quran. But again, the Quran, as old as it is, isn't the first writings. And so if you read, it's really difficult to get people to believe in that. Once they've got their mindset on things, that's it. It's really difficult to change them. So Calidora's wrote, that's even better as an audio. Thank you. Yeah, it is. Trust me, you'll be able to just sit there and listen to it a lot easier in a car or something. Mr. Smith wrote, no, they're cherubims. Well, he pronounces them cherubim. So that's why I say it's good to listen to someone saying it, because I probably wouldn't have been able to pronounce it. I can't even pronounce cherubims. Just reading. So I've got 3 minutes left. Thank you guys for excellent questions today. Calidora's wrote, I was educated in a Catholic school and studied philosophy in university. I've never heard any of this. No, they really wouldn't want you to know it. And it's not just me making up this rubbish. It's I've been researching over 30 years of all this kind of stuff. And you can't just look at the Book of Enoch and think that's it. You have to look at clairvoyance. You have to look at all the paranormal disciplines to be able to work out whether or not it's correct. So, like I say, the Book of Enoch talks about spirits. So you need to know and talk to clairvoyants and mediums and listen to them and watch their shows or whatever. You need to do enough of that to be able to say, aha, yes, that makes sense in the Book of Enoch. Because if you just read the Book of Enoch, you pick things out and you can sort of attribute it to things. But if you know everything, which is why I've kind of done what I've done. You know, I made a concerted effort years ago to make sure I'd learnt about Bigfoot and spirits and ghosts and the whole lot, to see if there's any connections, and if there is, then I can sort of piece it together, and that's what I've done. There's a lot of researchers out there that sort of just stick with one thing. You know, they'll stick with the good, you know, the ancient monuments, and they'll stick with UFOs, and they'll stick with. But as a whole, once you see the whole of everything, then it sort of makes things start becoming a lot clearer. What they did for me. You know, and I do use the research, and I've spoke to many of the researchers that specialise in those things I was talking about. So, you know, if it wasn't for those guys, I wouldn't have as much information. So, you know, although I'm not knocking them for looking into one subject, but for me, it helped me understand a lot more. So, yeah, so the schools won't teach you none of this, I'm afraid. Anthony's wrote, I think I hit a sore spot by asking them about the Book of Enoch and the scrolls. No answer, just shh. Yeah, I can imagine. I tried to there was, I was with a girlfriend at the time, and I was walking past someone that was, it was a young girl standing in the street in Essex, and in the high street, talking about trying to, you know, get people to, I guess she was a Jehovah's Witness, I'm not sure, but she was trying to, you know, spread the word of the Lord. So I went up to her, and my girlfriend was yanking me away, saying, don't. So of course I started asking her these questions, and she had no idea about anything. She didn't even know the word Anunnaki. And you know, I just started to sort of talk to her, and you could see her eyes like widening, thinking, well, that kind of makes more sense than what she's pushing out. And in the end, you know, my girlfriend yanked me away, but I sort of said to this young lady, I said, look, just do some research, and then come back and, you know, preach, but don't just follow what other people are telling you to follow. So yeah, it's really hard to get through to them, but maybe you never can, I guess. Caladora's wrote, oh no, I fully believe there is more. Yeah, I mean, we just know what our governments are like. Once you know what they're like, you know, JFK. I was going to sing the song there, JFK, something away. I won't say it because it's a bit sad, but you know, he didn't die accidentally. So when you've got governments that can do all that kind of stuff, then yeah, they can certainly hide our history for their own benefits. And unfortunately, my time is up. This will go on YouTube later, along with some other videos that I'm behind on. So keep watching. Maybe subscribe to YouTube just in case I get pulled off of here. And thank you very much. Billy's wrote, too many people with closed minds. Yes, yeah, they are, and unfortunately that's happening now with everything that's going on, one way or another. Thank you, Caladora, for saying thank you, and I'll probably try and come on maybe Wednesday or Thursday lunchtime, noon UK time. But thank you, excellent questions again today, and subscribe on YouTube just in case I get pulled off, and I'll talk to everyone soon. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye.